Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I'm going to be discussing some of my thoughts and opinions on Mortal Kombat X. I picked the game up when I returned home from a trip to Georgia that I made. I was down there when the game came out, so I didn't get to play it on release day, although I was pretty hyped for it. I've been a Mortal Kombat fan for since the first game. However, I think we can all agree that the 3D releases like Deception and Deadly Alliance and especially Armageddon kind of left a little to be desired. They weren't bad games per se, but they didn't, I don't know, at least to me and from what I gather from the internet, they didn't quite have that Mortal Kombat feel to them. There's just certain things about them that they never quite reached that status that those first three games had. And when Mortal Kombat 9 came out in 2011, there was a lot of hype behind that game. It was going back to like a 2D fighting plane. It was rebooting the franchise, so there's kind of some nervousness there. But Mortal Kombat 9 turned out to be, in my personal opinion, and a lot of people's personal opinions, to be the best game in the series. It did a lot of things right. Um, the fighting was fast and fluid, and they got rid of the style of combos that were becoming quite prominent in the series since Mortal Kombat 3. But they basically took everything that the series was known for. It kind of went back to its roots, and it just built upon the strengths of the series. And I personally can't find play style wise a whole lot wrong with Mortal Kombat 9. Now the story, I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag. At the time it was a really more involved story than previous Mortal Kombat's had had. But it was basically like if you condense the cutscenes, it's 2 hours of Raiden fucking up, and a lot of basically almost the entire roster was killed by the end of the story, and it was left on a cliffhanger. So I was kind of pretty nervous about the next Mortal Kombat because a lot of my favorite characters were dead, and wasn't quite clear where they were going to go with it, other than they ended it with the cliffhanger of Quan Chi and Shinnok hanging up. So kind of everybody assumed that Mortal Kombat 10, or X as they ended up calling it, was going to have to do with the events of Mortal Kombat 4 and so on and so forth. So come Mortal Kombat X, story-wise, it does pick up. It explains why certain characters are back and how they survived and things like that. But it basically, before we get into the story points, we'll talk about the game in general. There is a ton of things to do in this game. One of the big things that came back was the crypt. It's a little bit more interactive than previous crypts where you just kind of went from stone to stone and unlocked whatever, and there was a jump scare here and there. And I was really hoping I could get one here while I was capturing footage, but basically you walk through different areas, you can turn and stuff like that, and you explore and you unlock your crypts and things like that. You get concept art, character skins, fatalities, brutalities, music, fan art, coins, and that might be it. You can unlock easy fatalities in the crypt, um, some battle modifiers. I think that may be it. I don't know. Usually I concentrate on the alternate skins first and things of that nature. But in each area, there's the graveyard, the spider tunnels, Khan's mausoleum, and then there's like little one-room areas like the White Lotus Temple and things like that. There's a shrine that you can gamble coins and try to win more coins, which I show here. Um, but in each area, there's different monsters. Like in the cemetery, wolves will randomly pop up. The spider tunnels, a spider will randomly show up, and in Khan's crypt, a corpse will pop up out of the water and try to attack you. And then you just do a quick button press, and you either succeed or you don't. There's no detriment to failing. You just, if you succeed, you like hack at the monster, and then you get coins, which increase the more that you succeed. All in all, though, it's your basic crypt. It's pretty large. I got lost a couple times looking for specific things. There's timed chests. There's different relics you can find that unlock different areas of the different sections of the crypt, uh, like Scorpion's Spear, Sub-Zero's Ice Ball, Liu Kang's Fireball, Ermac's Pendant, things of that nature. And then you can expand your crypt even further to find the different things that you want to unlock. If you're looking for specific things, I highly suggest finding a guide online that tells you where things are at, because these chests get expensive quick. I went in the first time I came in. I walked in with like 100,000 coins and blew through them like that. There's a encounter there. So, and sometimes it can get annoying. There was an area in the spider crypt where I had like 5 spiders right in a row, real quick, like, so that can kind of get annoying. There's a time chest there. It disappeared before we got to it, but it's a little bit more interesting than previous crypts where you just kind of statically went through it and unlocked your different things. So they did kind of try to make it a little bit more engaging this time, but it's still your basic crypt. It's just slightly more interesting this time. And I know the first time I went through it, I probably spent about an hour just walking around, finding the different relics to unlock the different rooms and things like that. So it can definitely be a time sink, especially if you go in with a lot of coins. So I don't have a whole lot here, but I can't. But like I said, when I went in the first time, I had about 100,000 coins, and they were gone pretty fast. You have your towers, you have extras, and this is pretty cool. I don't have any match replays here because the one downside to the match replays that I can find is that when your game updates, then it won't play you your previous match replays. They'll still be saved, you just can't access them, which I thought that was kind of stupid. I don't understand what was in the update that they can't play the replay. I mean, I understand, updates in fighting games, usually they change things like buffing certain characters, nerfing certain characters or moves or whatever, and fixing exploits like infinite corner combos and things like that, but I don't see why that would affect a replay unless unless it's not a completely recorded replay and it's like rendering the file. I don't know. I don't know the technical details of the match replays, but if you have a really good match and you want to save it, use, I don't know how it would work on the Xbox One, but on the PlayStation 4, use your share function, because once your game updates, you won't be able to watch the match again. But it's handy to see like how to watch yourself and kind of figure out what you screwed up in a fight or what you're good at in a fight and work on your tactics and things like that if you don't have a capture card or anything of that nature to record your fights. As you can see, you can go through, and while it won't play the fatalities, it'll kind of show you what you've unlocked, all the different music that you've unlocked, your artwork that you've unlocked, the character bio cards will show what costumes you've unlocked and things like that. So there's a lot of content here. Most of it kind of boils down to being a grind to earn the coins to buy the content or to unlock the content in the crypt. You have your various online modes. You got your rooms, your verses, your team battles, King of the Hill, tower battles, leaderboards, and all that fun stuff. There's faction challenges, which the faction thing I wasn't sure of at first, but it's pretty cool. Basically, when you first boot up the game, you get the option to join a faction: the Lin Kuei, Special Forces, Black Dragon, White Lotus, and the Brotherhood of Shadow. And then if your faction wins that week, you get some coins and stuff like that. And I think that's about it. That's all I got last week was coins, because I joined the Lin Kuei, and Lin Kuei was the top faction last week. But it's there's a lot of things there. Even in your single player is pretty beefy. You got your traditional towers, which is like the old school arcade mode. You got your living towers, which I can't show here for some reason because it won't let me connect, but everything else is connected, so I don't know if those reset or they're down today for whatever reason. But they have 3 towers. They have hourly, daily, and weekly, and the challenges change. And there's different modifiers like extra damage, really fast combat, like little bombs will fall and blow up and stuff like that, or there's landmines on the ground that you can walk into and they'll hurt you and stuff like that. It's neat. It doesn't feel unfair, but it can get unfair at times. But it's a nice switch up from the typical just one-on-one battle formula. There's certain challenges that they issue that you can try to pull off. Like this one has land 6 jump punch attacks during the match and win. There's some that'll be like you finish the match with more than 15% health, or don't use any EX special moves, or different just modifiers that you don't necessarily have to complete, but if you do, you get more coins and points and stuff like that. You can challenge your friends, and I actually haven't done that yet, so I don't know exactly how it works, but the general gist of it is, like, you'll send your friends like a thing, and they'll have to do they can accept or decline to do the tower with the different challenges and things of that nature. But all in all, like I said, there's just, I can't stress enough how much stuff there is to do. I've been playing the game pretty hard for about a week, and I haven't gotten bored yet, so that's saying something. The arcade ladders are your typical ladders. You have like the old school classic, just run through, fight the boss, and call it a day. The final boss in the arcade mode, I will say, doesn't necessarily suffer from SNK boss syndrome. He does have some cheapness about him, but he doesn't feel nearly as cheap as Shao Kahn did in Mortal Kombat 9. You also can't exploit him like you did Shao Kahn in the last game, where you just kept the screen between the two of you and spammed your projectiles at him. So if you can't beat the final boss right away, you're gonna have to practice, because as far as I know, and I could be wrong, but as far as I know, there's no way to really exploit him for an easy win. But it's not completely unfair. He just has maybe like 1 or 2 kind of cheesy ass moves that piss you off a little bit. There's Test Your Might, which is a 10-round tower where you break things that get progressively more difficult to break, and then you just progress through your various levels of your tower until you get to the top. But if you fail, it's not like you just fail. They kind of throw something in there for you. One thing they added that a lot of people had asked for in the last game was the ability to replay specific chapters of the story mode, which is a real boon, no pun intended. That it's just kind of like a quality of life thing. There were certain chapters and people wanted to replay, but if you wanted to replay them, you had to play through the whole story mode. So now you have the option of picking the chapters you want to play out of all the characters. And there's 12 chapters and I think each character that has a chapter, you get like 4 or 5 matches. I don't know. I read that it was longer than Mortal Kombat 9's, but it didn't feel longer than it. I think it took me less time to get through it than it did to get through Mortal Kombat 9's story mode. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty about the game, and that's the fighting. Feels very good. It's really fast too. I was surprised with how fast the game is. It feels like Mortal Kombat 9 was fast, but I feel like this game is even faster than Mortal Kombat 9. It basically took everything that was in that game, tightened it up, and improved it. You still have most of your returning characters have the same special moves that everybody's used to. You still have X-ray attacks, which arguably could still be fatalities. You still have your move list. You can bring up your basic moves, your combos, everything like that. Each fighter, though, has 3 different fighting styles that kind of increases the learning curve a little bit. It switches up their like certain styles will add combos that aren't available in other styles. It'll change up the special moves a little bit. Like you have your 3 or 4 basic special moves that are available to you in every fighting style. And then you have special moves that are specific to that style. Your styles range from, seems to me like they're pretty balanced. You have like an offensive one, a mix of offense and defense, and then one that's purely defense. And then, switches it up a lot. Basically, you have to learn 3 ways to play each character if you want to utilize all the styles. Um, I'm finding some styles suit how I play, and some of them don't. Like with Melina, who was a character that I've loved since Mortal Kombat 2. She, out of her styles, I'd say probably Ravenous is the one that most suits my play style. Katana's assassin style seems to fit how I like to play. And then Sub-Zero's like Cryomancer and things like that. So it's all about finding what fighting style for each character works for you the best. But at the same time, it's probably worth knowing at least 2 of them and getting the hang of 2 of them so that you can change it up and kind of keep people on their toes a little bit. But for the most part, like, the basics are the same. It's just a little kind of like, I guess the best analogy I can give is it's like going to 3 different restaurants and getting the same meal. You're going to get little sprinkles of seasoning on the different ones that you didn't have at the other ones. The other thing that I noticed too, they have character-specific intros sometimes. Not all of them, but there are certain characters that when they do fight each other, they will have specific intros. And it seems they kind of make little references to the mirror matches and things of that nature. So they did a lot to kind of just vary it up a little bit, and the characters aren't really so static anymore. A few of them are a little bit more talkative during the matches. They'll address things that happen or things like that, or say things to the opponent, some of which are character specific, some of them are just generic. It seems like the rivalries that are built up in the story mode carry over into general gameplay, so that's pretty cool. It's just that it's something that you probably wouldn't miss if it wasn't there in the first place, but the fact that it's there, you pick up on it, it's just kind of a nice little touch. But let's get into some of the new fighters too that I mentioned earlier. You have your basic returning characters like Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Katana, Melina. I was a little sad Jade didn't come back. Liu Kang, Kung Lao, Raiden. Characters from previous games before the timeline, or before the reboot, like Shinnok comes back. Your new characters, as I said, sometimes, you know, when they switch out the roster so much, it's kind of like you get nervous a little bit, because new characters in Mortal Kombat have been very hit and miss. Like in Deadly Alliance, I couldn't stand the Oni and things like that. But I will say, you know, I haven't messed around a lot with the new characters. I used Farah and Tor a little bit. I used Cassie and Jackie Briggs, or Cassie Cage and Jackie Briggs, Takada, and Kung Jin. You know, and you use them all through the story mode, but they all feel pretty good. And even in the story mode, the characters are fairly likable. At first, I wasn't a big fan of Kung Jin, and then as you learn more about his backstory and things like that, he's actually a pretty well-rounded character. There was a little bit controversy, or I don't even know if you want to call it controversy, but there was some rebel on the internet about him being a homosexual character, and I was kind of nervous with how they were going to handle that, because like, I didn't want. I have no problem with characters that are gay, but don't browbeat me that they're gay. And once, to be perfectly honest with you, I completely almost missed the scene, because they don't browbeat you. It's not like the Jean Grey, Bobby Drake thing in the all-new X-Men. It's kind of subtle, and if you probably didn't know what they were talking about, you probably wouldn't have caught it. There's just a quick exchange between him and Raiden that kind of hint at it, and I thought it was fairly well handled. I mean, it wasn't like they put a big sign up on the screen to tell you, you know. So I will applaud them for that, and especially since, let's be honest, Mortal Kombat isn't exactly known for tactful storytelling. But getting back into the characters, they are the ones that I've used so far are pretty fun to play as. Like Cassie, she kind of plays like a blend of Sonya and Johnny Cage, obviously, since she's their daughter. Jackie doesn't really feel like Jax, but there is some similarities there. But all in all, I don't mind the passing of the torch to these characters, because they're decent characters in the story. and they're fun to play as. Now, I'd like to get more time with Aaron Black and Devora, who I have used Devora a couple times. She's pretty cool to play as. Aaron Black is very different from what we're used to in a Mortal Kombat game because he's pretty, like, kind of like an old school Western gunfighter type of fighting style. But no, all in all, I really enjoyed the new characters. I can honestly say, out of all the fighting games I've ever played, this one probably has the most new characters that I actually enjoy. Usually, like I've said in the past, especially with Mortal Kombat games, new characters are kind of hit and miss. So that was a welcoming refresher that the new characters were actually really fun. But let's get into what a lot of people will probably be here for, and that's the fatalities.
Here's Johnny.
Johnny Cage wins. Fatality.
Each character has 2 fatalities and then 4 or 5 brutalities. Now, before you get your hopes up that brutalities are you beating the shit out of your opponent until they explode into a massive 1,200 rib cages, 5 femurs, and 6 skulls like in Mortal Kombat 3, no. It's just basically kind of like you have to meet certain requirements during the match for some of them. But for the most part, in a nutshell, it's ending the final round with a special move and holding a button or making a button press at the right moment, and that special move will kill the opponent, and that's your brutality. Which at first I was kind of like, oh, that's not what I was expecting, but it's still pretty neat. Kind of adds a nice little touch to the whole thing. But some of them can be a pain in the ass to try to meet the requirements to perform them. Some of them are specific to whatever style you choose for the character. But all in all, the ones that I've managed to pull off are fairly satisfying. They, like I said, it adds just that little bit of extra depth to the game, especially since your opponent, if you're playing online, probably won't expect it because everybody wants to humiliate their foes with a fatality after they beat them. So it is pretty cool to kind of just cap that match off with a brutality just to see what it does, you know. All in all, the fatalities are fairly satisfying. Now, you don't have a lot of your classic fatalities like Sub-Zero's Head Rip or Scorpion's Hellfire Skull, and some of them are kind of cheesy and fun, but for the most part, they are gory as fuck. They really pushed the envelope with what they could get away with this time, and I'm surprised some of these made it through. Now, there's nothing that really made me cringe like Noob Saibot's Rip You in Half one from Mortal Kombat 9, but they are pretty brutal, but like I said, there's a couple like Cassie's that are kind of humorous. Like there's one where she sticks her bubble gum in a hole in their head, and then the blood from the hole in the head fills up the bubble gum, and it pops and stuff like that. But all in all, it's pretty much what you expect. There's nothing real stupid like Quan Chi's neck stretcher fatality or anything like that. But I would say, without question or any doubt in my mind, that this is probably my favorite Mortal Kombat game to date. And I'm really enjoying the experience thus far. And I am looking forward to the Tremor and Tanya specifically. The Predator and Jason, I don't know. I kind of feel like they shouldn't have been part of the content pack. I think they should have been separate from that, and they should have used maybe 2 more Mortal Kombat characters for the content pack, because there are characters that are in the story mode that are from the games, like Rain's in the story mode, Tanya's in it, but she's coming out. Fujin makes an appearance. Frost is in it very briefly. I'm trying to think of who else. That might be it. Noob, or Smoke is in it. I don't remember seeing Noob if he was in there or not. I think he was, because I think the only character unaccounted for from the previous game was Jade. She's not in the story mode at all. Baraka's there, a couple others, but you know, the Predator and Jason, I mean, it'll be kind of cool to play as them, just because, I mean, everybody's wanting Jason, especially after the Freddy thing in the last game. But I would have liked to have seen a few more stereotypical Mortal Kombat characters, but we'll see how those characters are when they come out. The DLC thing, there has been some uproar about the way WB NetherRealm has handled the DLC for Mortal Kombat X. And the sad reality of it is in this market anymore, games do not necessarily make back the amount of money that it costs to make them. So they have to come up with ways to try to make up that difference. And basically at least make their budget back before they end up turning a profit. And while it might not be something myself or yourself may agree with, it's the sad reality of gaming right now. Is it stupid to charge $20 to unlock the entire crypt, or I forget how much it is, but you can buy easy fatality packs, like it gives you like 30 easy fatalities for something, I forget how much money it is, but yeah, it's kind of dumb. But at the same time, if somebody out there chooses to spend 20 bucks to unlock the entire crypt instead of playing the game and unlocking it by earning coins, that's their prerogative. And really, somebody out there has to be doing it if these companies keep putting it into the game, or enough people were asking for the option that they decided it was a viable business model. So while you should probably have some ire directed at the developers, you should probably direct some at ourselves too, because if nobody was asking for it or nobody would spend the money on it, they probably wouldn't have thrown it into the game. The Goro thing kind of pissed me off, making Goro a pre-order bonus. I thought that was kind of bullshit. I don't think content like that should be locked behind pre-orders. But that isn't necessarily a problem that's specific to Mortal Kombat X. That is a problem with the gaming industry as a whole. And that's something that I kind of... That's an example that blatantly feels like something that was taken out of the game to entice people to pre-order it. And that I have an issue with. The unlockable the easy fatality packs and the $20 to unlock the crypt, it's kind of weird and kind of like, well, what the fuck are they doing? But at the same time, as I said, if you spend the money on that, that's more on you than it is on NetherRealm, I would say. I don't have an issue with that, because those things are unlockable just by playing the game, and it's not content that's hidden behind the paywall. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Other than those couple things, I would say this game is damn near perfect. I'm sure there's things that the higher level players can pick out that, you know, an average player like myself or anybody watching this probably wouldn't notice. You know, like I don't count frame data or any of that bullshit. There's nothing that seems too broken yet. There's nothing that feels exploitive, or at least nothing that I've come across yet. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but my experience with the game has been fairly positive. I ended up getting it on the PlayStation 4 mainly because it's solid, and reading comparisons on like Eurogamer and stuff like that, there's a little bit of a difference between it and the PC version, but for the most part it's a pretty close experience. And the PC version did have a couple bugs at launch with the way the game installs, and it does have some higher resolution features, like it's got some better textures, but it's still, for some reason, from what I read, and I don't know if this has been corrected yet, the game plays in 60 frames, but the cutscenes are still in 30, which is kind of strange for a PC game. That's pretty much how the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 are. The Xbox One has like a couple frame drops of like 2 or 3 frames here and there, but from what I gather, from what I've read, it seems like you'll get a pretty solid experience no matter what you play it on. The other main reason I bought it on the PlayStation 4 is because that's what the good chunk of my friends that play the game will be playing it on, is the PlayStation 4, so it wasn't a choice made by preferences or anything like that. It was just what I would have the best experience playing with other people on. But from what I gather, you're not going to go wrong with whatever platform you end up getting it on. I will probably eventually get it on PC, like if they come out with like a complete edition or something like that. But for the most part, you're not going to have too bad of an experience no matter what you play it on. And I haven't come across any game-breaking glitches or anything like that on the PlayStation 4. And as far as I know, there's not any game-breaking glitches on anything else. Again, this is all as far as I know. Things could change between when I record this and when I upload it, so don't burn me on the pyre yet if something happens. But all in all, if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, you owe it to yourself to get this game. It's fun as hell. There's a lot to do. And basically, they just took everything that they did right with Mortal Kombat 9 and tightened it up, made it bigger, better, splattier, gorier, bloodier, and threw it out there. The voice acting, much improved. There was a couple characters in Mortal Kombat 9 that they sounded kind of wonky to me. I don't know who the voice actor is for Johnny Cage, but he reminds me very much of Eddie McClintock. He plays Pete on Warehouse 13, but it's not him. But he has that vibe about him. Johnny Cage is actually pretty likable in this game, and I was never really a big Johnny Cage fan. Great Lyle is Katana and Melina. In the fighting aspects, in the story mode, it's Karen Strassman, because Gray gave birth to a child during the making of this game and couldn't record her lines for the story mode. Steve Bloom is Sub-Zero, Reptile, and one other character. Bo Raicho. Tara Strong is Farah. There's a couple other big characters that were in the game that was kind of neat. But all in all, solid experience. I can't really point out too many negatives. The only thing that might be a pain in the ass to some people is some of the character skins are only unlocked through online multiplayer. So if that's not your thing, that might kind of irritate you a little bit because you can't unlock them in the crypt. You have to meet certain requirements online to unlock certain skins. But again, you know, it is what it is. If you don't want to play the online multiplayer, I can't talk now. You're just gonna have to deal with not having certain skins. But again, as I said, this game is damn near perfect for a Mortal Kombat game in my opinion. And if you are a fan, play it. But at any rate, guys, I know I kind of went on and on for a while on this game in this video, but again, I can't stress enough how much I appreciate you guys taking the time to check out my videos. I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Have a good one.
Fatality.